Ever wondered what goes into making your workwear, especially your customised printed workwear? Well, today's episode, I talked to the man behind Printed Workwear and why design and colour and all that stuff is so darn important when it comes to your image with your customers.
Welcome to the Tradies Business Show with Warwick Bidwell. Talking business ownership, the nuts and bolts, and everything in between.
Joining me today on the Tradies Business Show is Mr. Joshua Singer, is his full name. I've been calling him Josh in good Australian form. So Josh is from a business called Printed Workwear. Josh, welcome to the studio, mate.
Thank you very much for having me, Warwick.
My pleasure. You're not actually in my studio. That would be a bit weird, but we're in different parts of the country using modern technology, which we managed to figure out eventually, mate. We've got connected up. So
yes, that's it.
So, Josh, as I do with everybody that I have on the show these days, I hate bios. I hate bios when they're read by other people about other people. It seems a little detached. So, mate, tell the Tradies Business Show listeners who you are and what you do, and maybe a little bit of how you ended up doing it, mate. It's an interesting business you're in.
Okay, sure. Well, look, essentially, our primary, my background and my roots is I'm actually a designer by trade, and I used to do websites and kind of graphic design and kind of little different pieces like that. Essentially, how Printed Workwear was formed is through one of our other companies, which is called Pistol Clothing. Probably about 6 or 7 years ago, we started off on a really kind of simple idea, which was creating custom T-shirts. And about 7 years ago, no one in the marketplace was kind of actually doing it. So we started off essentially just building a really, really kind of basic form of a website where customers could upload a photo, get that kind of done online, and then essentially we would print it onto a T-shirt and, kind of deliver it Australia-wide.
Nice.
So that's kind of how we started off, and that's where one of the primary focuses are. And essentially through that, I guess of recent times, say over the past 2 to 3 years, we've had a lot of requests lately for workwear type related items. And I guess that's kind of where the idea of Printed Workwear was born and created.
Cool, mate. So really this is an offshoot from your original idea.
Yes, exactly. I guess you could call it a kind of a sister type of idea.
Okay. And I got to ask, Josh, which one's doing better, mate?
It's a good question because, look, essentially for us, Pistol Clothing is our foundation. It is, I guess from a trader's point of view, it's our house and it's our foundation. And I think they kind of both need to coexist. You know, they both kind of leverage off each other. But to kind of answer your question, as of lately, I guess we've seen a really good surgence with Printed Workwear in terms of orders coming through, and that's kind of showing some really good potential at the moment.
Now, mate, I'm actually currently looking at some of your cool gear in the Tradies Business Show studio, which you were kind enough to send up to me in a very exciting large yellow Australia Post bag, which surprisingly found me in these days of Australia Post, mate. G'day to anybody from Australia Post that's listening. Mate, it's good looking stuff, and I like the fact that you've gone and stolen my logo off the website or something and and embroidered it onto a bunch of shirts and high-vis gear, mate. So very impressive.
Thank you. Well, I think, that was kind of like the idea. I kind of want to send you, as I mentioned before, like something a bit kind of secret. And I thought, well, what's the best way to kind of explain, what we do and that kind of stuff was to kind of show you some of those type of garments. And I guess I was trying to guess as well, like what size and stuff like you'd be. So,
well,
it's all gone, but
unfortunately, mate, I'm not in the middle of the bell curve when it comes to clothing sizes, mate.
Yes.
I'm a smaller size dude. So, but I tell you what, I did see all that gear, and what I'm going to do for listeners, mate, and you and I can put the thinking caps on when we stop recording this part of the episode, is I'm going to give it all away, mate.
It's
Yeah.
there for. So it's up for grabs, and yeah.
So we're going to come up with a competition, listeners. Another one. I've been giving some stuff away lately. I'm a generous guy,
Yeah.
and there's going to be tradies out there rattling around with some high vis tradies business show gear on. So listen to the end of this episode to find out what Josh and I come up with in a quick brainstorm for a competition. But mate, getting back to, I guess, the evolution of your business. You've gone from being a designer. Obviously, you've started a business, and it's something that a lot of my listeners have done, obviously, because they're in business, so they had to start it. What was your business start like? I mean, can you give us some insights, mate?
Well, if I kind of go back to the early kind of years, as kind of mentioned before, my background was design. So I kind of, after, I guess, high school, I went straight and I didn't take a kind of a gap year or anything like that. Looking back on it, I kind of think I should have had a break, but I was just full of energy and I was pretty actually lucky. And funnily enough, down the road from where we are in Sydney, I got accepted into a design school. And I just made it through the waiting list because at the time it was quite competitive just to get into a design centre type course.
Mm.
And so I've always really had a passion for, I guess, art and drawing from an early age. And I kind of saw graphic design and web design. And at that time, I guess web design was really just starting to evolve.
Yep.
And kind of form. And I guess kind of through that, I was able to learn some skills. But to be honest, most of the stuff I kind of picked up, I guess I just really just taught myself because I felt at the time maybe some of the classes were a bit, I guess, a little bit outdated as opposed to what was kind of happening in terms of technology at the time.
Mm.
But kind of getting back to what you're kind of asking is kind of through that, I started doing a bit of freelance work to, I guess kind of like friends and family and stuff like that. And I kind of formed into a bit of just by accident, really, without even thinking about things, a bit of a design type company, in essence. It's kind of where it all started.
Cool. So it was just kind of an accidental business startup, mate.
Yeah, well, it's kind of accidental, but also the other thing too was I actually was applying for a couple of jobs, and I just really had no luck at the time for employment. I guess at an early age, I really had that kind of cat vision of, I'm kind of on this one path and my idea was maybe to work for a huge corporation like, I don't know, Coca-Cola as their, senior graphic designer. And that was like my kind of, high school, type dream that was going to be, my goal. And, maybe throughout time I'd be able to, proceed and I guess process to, I guess, another level and another level and another level to maybe one day I was like a senior art director in, like a fancy type Coca-Cola organization or company.
Mm. And you didn't really do that, mate.
Well, that was, as I said, that was a weird thing. Look, I went for some interviews and I remember, and just coming straight after school, I was probably about 21 or 22 years of age. I think that's one of those things too, is like the schools, they don't really prepare you for those type of interviews. So, there I was, and, I'm sure like these days it's really different, but I had one of those like really huge, and I'm talking like an A2, like those really black kind of folders, and, I've got showing all these kind of, things from school that I've done. And I think that was the hardest thing with the interviews was with employment. People obviously want to hire somebody with experience and, coming out of kind of school, I didn't really have any examples of real experience except for, I guess, these pretend type of design projects that we had done as assignments at the time.
So how was your business start, mate? Was it a nice, easy one? I mean, it sounds pretty simple. You kind of fell into it. It just sort of happened. Is that reality, mate? Or
look, in terms of was it an easy start? I think when I used to just kind of be by myself, the simple answer was yes, it was. I was just living at home with my mum at the time, and it was just great. As soon as I'd pick up some work, it was great. I'd have a bit of spare cash, spare bit of money. Obviously, working from home, you didn't really have to, I'd help out, but you didn't have to focus about, rent, employees' wages, all those kind of outside costs, which you kind of, that goes around in your head at kind of this point in time. So I guess to come back to your thing was that, yeah, like at the start it was an easy start and there was no stress. Like I didn't, if I didn't have a job on or there was nothing to do, then, that's cool, that's okay.
Yeah, so takes a lot of that pressure off, mate.
Exactly.
So starting a business can take a lot of time, and certainly to get up and running. But I actually have something of a business friend that I know has done pretty well out of selling, like custom printed sneakers and stuff online via Facebook pages and online shopping sites. I mean, and that exploded quickly for him, and he's very good at what he does, and it sounds like you guys are too. I mean, you've got a stack of reviews online too. I was having a bit of a scroll through your webpage and all the entries that come up, and you got some rave reviews about the service and the speed, the design, the quality, all that sort of stuff. How quickly did this take off for you guys?
So if we're talking about printed workwear as such, look, as I said before, we were kind of starting to get some of those requests through, obviously, the pistol company. But where it really took shape was, I guess, when we sat down and we said, well, look, if we're getting all these kind of requests from tradespeople for all these different type of high-vis, then we kind of really just put this plan together and thought, well, why don't we come up with a new kind of idea, which is maybe a website that would be targeted towards, for example, tradies and whatnot. That was actually designed in the sense that we'd have products, we'd try and make the website as easy as possible, and we kind of did a bit of basic market research before we put everything together to kind of just think about, well, I guess we tried to put our heads inside the heads of tradies, as kind of crazy as that kind of might sound a bit.
It sounds like a good plan to me, mate. Understanding your customers, it's fairly critical.
Yeah, it's almost like a full circle, because the difference between what printed workwear is and just digressing back to what pistol is, originally we were the idea of pistol clothing was you could actually view a preview, like going back, as I said, 17 years ago. It was exciting to, here's a photo and this is how it looks on a t-shirt. And in Australia, it hadn't really been done before. So the idea was people would, there you go, that's how it looks onto a t-shirt, that's how it looks on a design. You'd spend, your time typing the text. And it'd be exciting, and that's it. That's great. I'm going to order it. It's that kind of instant kind of gratification. When we started the idea of printed workwear, traditionally, say some of the other websites out there, say in Australian marketplace, or if you look overseas, a lot of them are focused on building an online type design tool. So I think one of the features we thought to try and stand out and be a bit different is, I guess we just assume that, say, for example, a lot of, just like everyone's kind of busy, everyone's kind of, got their own type of schedule. But I guess we thought with tradespeople, not that they don't have much of a technological background, it's just that probably they're more focused on a different side of things.
Yeah.
And I guess we kind of presume that, say, most tradies, and, I could be wrong, maybe like now it's all changed, but a lot of them weren't kind of tech savvy. A lot of people are impatient. They're working really hard, long hours, they're very tired. They kind of didn't want to go to I just thought they didn't want to go to a computer screen, spend a lot of time designing, uploading, okay, I've got to get my photo and all that kind of stuff, get it right, spend hours and hours, and then kind of put it through. So the idea of printed workwear was just to keep it really simple and clean. And then you can essentially just upload your logo, go through a really simple wizard, and then what we do to make the kind of difference is we've got, say, a couple of our designers, and then we'll send you back the design proof via email. So we're trying to simplify things a little bit to the end customer, and then help increase the speed kind of that way.
Yeah. And it's a question I was going to ask you, Josh, is what sets you guys apart? What's different about printed workwear?
Well, I think that's exactly it. We really, for example, our background, as I said, being a designer, all of us here, we have a background in design and also printing. So we're really focused in trying to get, the quality of the colors right. We all kind of care about all the kind of the orders that we use. We try and offer styles. That's, I guess, very fashion forward. And, for example, today we've just put up a whole bunch of new styles and new products that suppliers have just launched. So we try and keep our finger on the pulse and able to offer new and exciting and fashion forward type products to tradies as if we would be wearing them ourselves, maybe out to a fancy weekend and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, is that stuff really that important, mate? You talk about colour and design, and I know that's probably a little bit of blasphemy talking to a designer about those things, and I got a mate who's been a creative director in some of the big ad agencies for years, so we tend not to talk about those things because he's very particular about it.
Artists' way of things.
What's that, sorry?
I said obviously artists have a certain way of things and being particular and stuff.
Yeah, but as far as the end product and, like getting the colours right and the even the size of the logo and the placement and that sort of stuff for workwear in particular, I mean, does that stuff make a difference to a uniform and to customers' perceptions? I mean, is it really worth worrying about?
Yes, I think it is because everyone's really concerned about their image now. I guess especially with social media, stuff like, Instagram, Facebook, obviously taking off, Snapchat. I guess especially, showing up to sites, people are, especially tradespeople, they are definitely, particular about their brand because, more than ever, they're kind of, I guess, starting their own business. And especially, we deal with, say, most of our customers might be starting, their business for the first time and, they're all really excited. This is their first time they're going to do it. So especially for them, being a small business and, not saying that, some of our products are extremely expensive or cheap, but it's still, a few $100s, for a few various bits of products. So I guess it's really important for them to make sure that they're getting exactly what they want. And I guess that's exactly it too. The hardest thing is sometimes you just can't imagine and you can't picture and you say, oh, okay, well, for example, the tradies business show, I mean, okay, if I'm going to have a black garment, are we going to go white on top of that? How will that look? So that whole design process that we do when we send back customers' designs, a lot of times, they'll see it and go, you know what, I'm not really 100% sure about that front left position. Maybe let's make it bigger, let's make it smaller. So it kind of gives them that kind of chance that, to adjust things until they can visually see it. For them to help it, and then they can help them kind of decide on the placement, I guess, a lot better.
Yeah, and look, I'm probably playing a little bit of devil's advocate there with you, Josh, but it is important, and customer perception is critical. I was doing some sales leadership with a group of sales people earlier in the week, and we were talking about the rule of threes. You get 3 seconds when you meet somebody to earn the right to speak for 30 seconds, and then engage them for another 3 minutes, which gets you 30 minutes, and so on, right? So, humans are visual creatures. We judge based on the way things look, despite the old adage about never judge a book by its cover.
Yes.
We still do. So it's
a paradox in a way.
Yeah. So it is really important, and I know... I took my car to a new mechanic today, and even down to the colour of his workshop and the uniform that he was wearing and his logo and all that stuff. I mean, I'm aware of all those things, but I still found myself looking at them and going, yeah, I really like the colour of his workshop, and he just subconsciously, and it does have an impact on how customers feel about dealing with you, especially with tradies who... rightly or wrongly, probably wrongly in most cases, get a bit of a raw deal as far as what people think of them.
Well, exactly. And I think if you kind of, think about through time and how it's kind of evolved, and then, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, it was maybe cool. It was, the very kind of typical, Australian way to have shirts with holes because you've been working really hard and not really care and be dirty and smelly. And that was kind of, maybe that was just kind of the iconic way of kind of doing things. And maybe there's this whole emergence of whether it's kind of metrosexual type people or hipsters or whatever you kind of want to call it. There's a new influx, and especially as well for female, a lot of female tradies are into the marketplace now as well, that people just want to show up to work, I guess, looking good. But also true is that, people want to have that association from a branding point of view as well.
Yeah, hipster tradies, mate. I don't know. I guess there's probably some hipster tradies running around, maybe in Sydney.
Definitely in Sydney. A lot of people around here I see on the streets with beards and looking pretty cool to the part. So.
Yeah, the beard is definitely back, isn't it, mate?
Yes, it is.
Are you sporting a beard, Josh?
No, actually, look, I used to, but not like a full kind of long beard. But I think, see, the problem with me is if I start having too much growth, it starts getting really itchy because, like in Sydney, it's quite humid. So
Yeah.
I try and,
I'm
keep
I'm
it.
I'm told beard oil is the secret, mate, but I'm not
So,
not a big fan of rubbing oil all over my face. Anyway,
yeah.
that's enough about our beards, mate.
One day when I'm much older, I'll bring it back possibly.
So, mate, what you've talked a bit about the design process with clients and how you guys are different. I mean, isn't it just as simple as you pick a t-shirt or a polo and you guys stick it in a machine and it puts a logo on it?
Look, I guess I wish it was, but well, that's exactly it. I mean, because really the logos are all different. Like, there's, different logos, different positions, different colors. There's also different fabrics, there's different supplies. So, funnily enough, there's actually lots of variables that kind of go into place that I guess most people wouldn't really think about. Um, say, for example, if we just look at, say, one aspect, which is, say, embroidery.
Mm.
We could say pick up, maybe one customer and they've got like this full coloured gradient in their logo. But unfortunately, with technology at the moment, we can't do gradients inside embroidery or stitching. It's just not possible.
Mm.
So we have to then take that logo and maybe break it down to maybe 3 or 4 different solid type colours for embroidery to, I guess, that kind of give it a bit of a similar effect to it. So, look, in some instances, like we get people who just, it's great, like they just want something really simple, like it could just be text, like event staff, or it could just be, staff or anything like that, or maybe even their logo name, they just type it. So I guess in those instances, it's pretty straightforward. And, if it's just black, like, you can't really go wrong with a color like black. So there are those instances where, yes, it is pretty straightforward. But most of the time, people are being very creative. Like I remember, once again, back at school, studying design, you're young, you're so creative. You're adding all these colors, you're doing all this amazing stuff. You're trying to do this huge collage of design. And then you come into the real world and then you see, big brands like Coca-Cola or, anything like that. And everyone's got these one color, two color, not boring type logos or anything like that, but just very traditional, simplistic type colors.
Mm.
But I think what's happening now is because I think there must be some really great designers out there. There's websites like, which I'm sure you've heard of now, like Fiverr and Upwork, and lots of, there's also an Australian website called 99 Designs, which produce great design work. So there's a great probably resurgence now of people producing and having, logos which are full colour.
Yeah.
Or just have more than 1 to 2 type colours to it to, I guess, add a bit of variety and stand out to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen that and working with a lot of tradies over the years and having seen a lot of different logos and brandings and seen it done well and seen it done maybe not so well. I've noticed that logos have probably become a little more complex again, just as an overall observation.
Yes, you could. Yeah, definitely, you could say that. I think, look, both. There's some people doing some really simplistic logos, which you can't go wrong. Everyone's talking about simple. Think Apple. Think anyone else. Everyone's got really simplistic logos. But for example, we've just done a job today, and there's a huge image on these back of these high-vis shirts for a company, and it's got a big, I forgot what it's called. Those huge excavation. What are they called? Where they dig, the hole into the ground.
Yep. Excavator, like earth moving.
Cat type kind of excavating type things.
Oh yeah, yep.
He's got all this kind of rubble and sand, and whoever's done this kind of illustration, and he's actually got a horse as well in the background. So, this guy's going all out, and it looks really cool. And and I guess that's the other thing too, is the technology's there now to be able to produce and print it from, I guess a more cost effective way than maybe 10 years ago you really couldn't do that.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're talking a bit about design and logos and branding. Do you think it's possible to go too far the other way, Josh, and just get too hung up about it and spend too much time and money on this stuff?
Look, I think there's some people who are very meticulous, there's some people who are just very, call it OCD. I mean, not even that. I think just people, I guess everyone's really striving for the best out of everything. And I guess everybody wants everything to be the best version, everything perfect. But look, sometimes with, printing and sometimes you see what you see on the computer screen looks great on your Macintosh and inside Photoshop. And sometimes you produce or you print it. It's a different medium. It's always going to look, it could be slightly different, and because, somebody at home could have a PC and another person's looking off their mobile phone and iPhone, because of all the different color variations, and obviously at the end of the day, we're all human. We can never kind of get everything 100% perfect to everyone. But I guess we want to try and do our best. And, like we've got 100% guarantee. So if there's any issues with anybody, we'll say, look, no worries, just send it back. Let us know what the issues were. We'll fix it, not a problem. And I think that's kind of like possibly one of the only ways we can kind of counteract that, because we know we can never be 100% perfect every single time. Obviously, we're going to try and do our best for every single kind of project, but being human, sometimes, if there is a mistake, we have that kind of opportunity where we can try and fix it. And that's the other thing too is, sometimes people look at visuals and it looks really nice, but somebody wears the clothing or the garment and it might be a little bit too big or it might be a little bit too small, and maybe how big their chest is or how tall they are, the logo might, we might have printed it perfect, but maybe when you wear it, it just might go a little bit to the left or right. So that, it does kind of affect some people.
Yeah. So, mate, it's probably something that I think a lot of business owners, it's almost like there's two ends of the spectrum and people don't find much middle ground on this. They either don't have a very good logo. Maybe they got their 15-year-old daughter to do it on Microsoft Word or something.
Yes.
Or they spend $1,000 and get something that really is probably over the top, not necessary, didn't need to invest or spend that much money, and not a lot of middle ground where it's like good enough is good enough, rather than sort of going for perfection or just something that's absolutely awful. Mm-hmm. Are there some, if there's a listener out there that's thinking, well, we're about to rebrand, or I've just started my business and I want a logo, are there some things that people should consider when they're actually putting one together or putting a brief together for someone on, a site like 99 Designs or Fiverr or whatever?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question because, start off, for example, I mean, if you're going to be producing, say, maybe say somebody's going to produce a logo and you say, I want to have it be full color, all these kind of colors and gradients, you might want to kind of think about a practical point of view. I mean, even pushing aside, say, workwear uniforms. Say, for example, you might get signage printed for your car or, posters and flyers. To start off with, when you start doing kind of full colour, any type of full colour printing, generally there's going to be more of a higher cost than if you do one or two colours. So from a financial point of view, it might be a little bit more expensive. But, and kind of in saying that too, there's some really good kind of middle ground. And I agree with you that, people have some really good opportunities out there with the different websites. Plus, there's some really amazing, great Australian freelancers out there as well. So I think you've got to kind of ask yourself, the type of person you are that, if you do want to get a really good logo that you care about, maybe you need to, and you're kind of a bit more hands-on and you want to see it and you want to sit down and kind of talk to someone, then it's maybe better for you to spend a little bit more money and maybe work with a local kind of freelance graphic designer, get that one-on-one where maybe some of the changes are a bit quicker. Like I used to have a thing where I had people, would come over to my place and I just found it was great because, people would say, look, I'm not really sure which colour. And bang, within 2 seconds, how's this red? Not, don't like it. What about this blue? Bang, perfect. So sometimes that can kind of help. But say for those other people who might not have access to, working with a freelance designer, they can go to these kind of websites like Upwork, Fiverr, 99 Designs. There's heaps of kind of them out there. but maybe have a brief. And probably the best thing I could suggest is have an idea. Well, this is the other thing too, is with design, is a lot of people will come up, even with t-shirt design or any type of design, you'll have people who come up to you and go, you know what, you're the professional. And this could be with tradies as well, with painters and plumbers. You're the professional, you're the architect. I trust you, design me something, you know what, you're the professional, you go for it. You know, I trust you, you're the expert. And then, you know, that architect or that other person, you know, they come back after spending a fair bit of time, they produce something, and then the customer's like, oh, you know what, I don't really like it. It's not what I really wanted. So I think as somebody who's probably putting it up there, you probably do want to have a look around and maybe do some research and say, you know, here's some examples of some logos I like. Here's some ones I don't like. You know, here's my favorite colors. You know, and I guess you probably want to just provide as much information as you can to the person who, I guess, ends up doing the design work to help them out, because in some ways design and to a certain point printing is an art, I guess, as a kind of generally kind of speaking, is it's all a bit of a guesswork and you're kind of creating something that kind of doesn't exist. So it's almost, you know, this is very subjective, but it's almost creating a bit of a miracle or something from scratch, like a creation that never existed before, that you're trying to think what's going on. And obviously we're not mind readers. We can't really think what you're thinking. So it's I guess, just trying to extract as much information as you can and saying, look, you know, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. I like these colors. I want to keep it simple, or I want to go all out, have it all crazy full color stuff. And I guess just having a clear direction from the start would probably be your best way to start things.
Good advice, mate. I'm wondering if that also applies to shopping for an anniversary gift for my partner, because she's not sure what she wants, but I know that she knows what she wants. She just doesn't know how to tell me.
Yeah, well, there you go. If you want to get her a vest, a high-vis vest, something different.
Yeah. I like your thinking, mate. I like your angle, but I think I'll stick with jewelry or something safe like that.
Actually, there you go. I mean, just talking about your friend with that, just digressing back to that whole personalization of the shoes. I mean, that's exactly the other thing too, is that the personalization industry is growing in that sense, and people are customizing anything. I mean, I remember quite a few years back when iPhone cases came out, and that was the trend to customize a photo into an iPhone case, and that really took. That's a bit of a fashion thing, and I think not many people might be doing it at the moment. But yeah.
It's interesting how some of these trends come and go, mate. I want to sort of loop back to something you mentioned about, we sort of spoke a little tongue in cheek about hipster tradies, but has fashion really come into workwear? Because maybe I'm just a bit of a crusty old guy that thinks, well, you get a polo shirt and you stick your logo on it, but Is fashion really a part of the decision with workwear these days?
Yes, I definitely think 100% yes on that, because there's all these really kind of like young, cool guys. Everyone's working out, everyone's looking after themselves, and I don't know, we've had customers before that've come in and they're all kind of decked out, looking. It's almost like a high school. In high school you're wearing your Nikes or your Billabongs back in the days, or whatever the cool Mambo fashion label was. It's kind of that kind of idea now with workwear that people don't want to be wearing these baggy kind of, high-vis shirts that's torn and it's got holes and faded in it. People want to look kind of cool. And even if you have a look now, say, even on Instagram, there's a lot of, even workwear labels that's popping up into the marketplace that's really fashion-orientated, that's, I guess, even emerging. So I guess it can only mean that, there really is an emergence or growth in that kind of that scene that people want to look good, people want to wear stuff that's really nice, feels good, and more importantly, I guess if you're going to be wearing that same thing every single day, you might as well want to, I guess, enjoy wearing it.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
And feel good, I guess, as well. Like you want to feel good inside.
Yeah, and I think that's a key thing too. That again perhaps gets left out of this, and I don't mean to dramatise workwear and uniforms, but you think about a team of people. I had a conversation with someone about this stuff just recently. about what people value in their role, and it's amazing how positively staff respond to having nice uniforms to wear. You know, that they're nice shirts, they fit well, they make them look good, or they feel good in them. They're not sweaty, like you say, torn, all that sort of stuff. Even liking the logo and how it's placed, and it's actually a really great way to boost your team morale and team culture as well.
Yeah, definitely. Probably like a really, really good way. And plus, if you kind of think of that whole Zuckerberg, the Facebook guy, I mean, in comparison, I think there's that thing on the internet where apparently he wears the same T-shirt every day. Or that was Steve Jobs wearing that same kind of jumper, that turtleneck thing.
Yeah.
But I think we're kind of the opposites of that. To be honest, I'd go crazy wearing the same shirt every day, and like it'd probably be pretty smelly or stinky. You probably need to have maybe 5 or 6 spares of that same shirt. But I think like people want to have that kind of variety. Like some people we find that they'll order some. For example, if they're placing an order with us, they might get some really kind of nice serious. They'll mix and match, so they'll get your traditional high-vis, tradie, fluoro, all that kind of workwear stuff. But they're also kind of getting a couple of, I'll get a couple of those really nice business shirts you guys do as well, and that's awesome. All those really nice 100%, fine quality, those polos which look like, I think that kind of Fred Perry, really premium type look. So when they show up to meetings, I guess they've got that uniqueness or that kind of that presentation that when they dress up, I guess that's almost that sense of not only confidence, but I guess they're portraying that image of who their brand is, and okay, well, this is us. We're professional people. We're really organised and we care about how we dress and how we look. And I think that kind of maybe reflects possibly even on an unconscious level to their prospective customers.
Absolutely, mate. Like it's that whole appearances and people judging book by covers. My mechanic had clean hands. He was wearing a smart, collared, short sleeve button down, dark coloured shirt so it doesn't show any grease or anything. Nice snappy logo. Clean workshop. Like it said that he cared about his appearance, and to me that said that he cared about the appearance of my car and the cleanliness of his work, and it says so much. So I don't think we can labour that point too much for the sake of a $40 shirt or something.
Like we had one customer come in and he goes, "Oh, it's time for some new work shirts." And I said, "Oh, okay, yeah, no worries, happy to help out, the usual." And I said, "Well, how long has it been since you last got uniforms?" And he told me, "Oh, it's been 13 years.
Holy smokes.
And I was looking at his shirt, and it was the most, I think it originally used to be black, and it was so faded, I think it turned into like kind of light grey colours.
He was getting his money's worth out of that, mate.
He is. I said, that shirt's really lasted a long time. And he said, yeah, you know what? He said, every day I've been meaning to get new uniforms, but for whatever reason, he said, I've been always putting it off. And I said, well, I just said, look, I'm glad you're here. You're in safe hands. And, hopefully I'm not sure if these are going to last 15 years again for you, but I said to him, well, hopefully, you'll come back sooner and we can do some more stuff for you. So.
Yeah. Now, Josh, you've worked with some pretty sizable companies in Australia and doing workwear for them. I mean, names like Qantas and Sony and Samsung. I mean, it certainly sounds like you've built a great business. You've got some great values in your business. I'm sure it hasn't always been plain sailing, mate, and I think it's too easy sometimes to talk about challenges, but I do find there's a lot of learnings for those of us in business from other people who've made mistakes and how they recovered from those. So have you hit any speed bumps along the way, Josh?
Yes. Look, in the early days, we had a lot of issues with the technology that we invested in. One example is we invested a fair chunk of money into one type of printing equipment, which all looked really good in the demonstration, but to really kind of dull it down and do a bit of a short story, it just never really worked. And, the salespeople, promised the world was going to be able to do this, to do that. And unfortunately, at that time, we really only had kind of one machine and another machine. So as soon as that kind of went down, it was very stressful from a production point of view because obviously, we're taking orders for customers, which we were trying to fulfill and produce, but we couldn't. So we had a lot of kind of instances, kind of dark days like that. We had issues where, some of the, garments we were kind of using with, different suppliers weren't good enough quality as well. So we've really had, to spend lots of hours researching. I mean, another, example is I remember in the early days when we tried to build this website, we actually, I had a really good program I used to work with. And that's the other thing too. I'm sure everyone always says it's really hard to find good people to work with, whether it's internal or outside. And he was very good, but unfortunately, fortunately for him, he was really good actually, and he ended up getting a job for, I think it was across the road from Google at the time. And I was so happy for him. I was really excited, and he really, helped build a really early version of what was the original company, Pistol Clothing with the digital printing. So that was probably a learning curve, and that's when we started to use some of these kind of outside websites. And then when it came to even building printed workwear, I remember we kind of contracted one programmer, and we I got everything all ready. Look, here's all the updates, here's all this stuff, and that's the kind of thing too as well in kind of today's society. We place a lot of trust, and we do a lot of business with people. Like even, for say example, you and me, like we've never met, yet we're kind of having this conversation. So even from a technology point of view and with programming, we were kind of like, we found this programmer. He looked really good on one of those kind of, freelance type websites. Looked amazing, great communication at the start, but, we were kind of sending all this money, and then, we'd get some kind of updates here and there. But so in the end, we ended up losing a lot of money because when we tried to get, say, for example, another programmer to come in and take over the code, that programmer then said, oh, look, not sure what programming, code he was doing, but that's a little bit outdated. It doesn't work. It's not compatible. So, I mean, we kind of, I guess, had to reinvest a bit of money to then build up the new website. And I'm glad we did because, I think that's exactly too. Everyone's got their fair share of, mistakes, problems and failures. But I guess it takes time to realize that you have to kind of get over that hurdle because, there's always, even though like you've got that kind of damage, you've got to go, okay, well, this never worked out. I guess you've got to pick up and keep going. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It's a common thread amongst people who have found success in business, Josh, and that is that whole thing of just keep going. You're going to get some knocks, some expensive lessons along the way. And we're always faced with those choices in life where we can, take that as the final beat down or get up and go again.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure like any, I guess, entrepreneur or, person you kind of speak to, and, I look back on some of the mistakes and I guess, problems and instances we've had and challenges, I guess you could call it. And I don't have any regrets at all about them that's kind of happened because I feel that, you need to have those mistakes. You need to really, really make them to grow because otherwise, if you don't make those mistakes, then I guess that's really what makes us human. Like we need to have those errors, mistakes to, I guess, grow as a person, become stronger and I guess visually try and, I guess, possibly not make that same mistake into the future, which obviously we can't, but I guess try and use that experience to more look like a positive light.
Absolutely.
And experience for the future.
Absolutely. There's a great line in one of my favourite bands, Boy and Bear. There's a great line in one of their songs where they say, if failure don't hurt, then failure don't work at all. And
nice.
It's kind of like, I don't know if that's how they intended it, but I hear that line. It's like, yeah, you know what? If you don't hurt, if you don't sort of fall down and skin your knees, then failing doesn't work. You've sort of got to take the pain from it and use that as a learning experience rather than just keep failing. So you kind of got to have that hurt that goes with it, whether it's financial or emotional or psychological sometimes. So anyway.
Exactly. And I think, all those kind of books you can buy and all those, huge entrepreneurs, all those motivational people out there. And you look at anyone, whether it's, Abraham Lincoln to, I guess, that whole idea of Rome wasn't built in a day, is that, and Thomas Edison. There's so many thousands of examples that people never really made it on their first go, and they need to have all those issues to I guess, progress further.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Josh, what is next for Printed Workwear? I mean, what does the future look like for you?
Well, look, we're going pretty good at the moment. I think we're very fortunate at the moment where we've got some really good customers at the moment who, reorder with us on a certain kind of basis and quite frequently. And I guess that's the great thing, that once we've got a certain base and a really good foundation, doing our best to look after customers, we can then try and look towards the future. And I think the future for us is to really look after and I guess improve as much as we can the experience for customers, whether it's simple things like updating the website to keeping a pulse on different fashion trends. There's heat. The workwear industry is quite huge, and I think it's really, really changing. So I think it's really a matter of not saying, okay, you know what, here it is. It's kind of working, and sitting back and relaxing and just forgetting anything. And, we've really got to come in every day, continue that same kind of passion, and just come up with new ideas of making our customers feel more welcome, providing, better service for them, and I guess improving their kind of way of thoughts and all that kind of stuff.
Cool, mate. So there's a question I like to ask all of my guests on the show, and
Yes.
That is, if you had 1,000 tradies in the room, Josh, what would be one piece of advice you'd leave them with, other than getting some new printed workwear made?
Oh, wow, that's a tough question. That's the toughest question. So just run that past me again. So if I had 1,000 tradies in the room, what would be the one piece of advice I'd leave them with?
Correct.
In terms of like workwear, or just in terms of
just advice, mate. So you're standing on the stage. You've just been given the opportunity to impart your wisdom upon 1,000 tradie business owners. What would you tell them?
I would say to them, get themselves a coach. That would be my one piece of advice.
Nice,
is get
mate.
themselves a coach, get themselves a mentor, get someone who can help you, because, in the early days, it's tough doing it by yourself. You need, whether it's a mentor, whether it's another business partner, whether it's, a friend. I really think the best advice is to get somebody, who's a coach. Think about all the musicians, think about all the, Olympic athletes, Ian Thorpe, all the great football stars. Everyone's kind of had a coach, somebody to push them, because I think if you're not, I guess as humans, we're all not blasé or anything like that, but we kind of go at our own speed, and I think we all need someone to help us along the way, and more importantly, to push us to grow.
Nice, mate. Very good advice. And there hasn't been too many guests in the years I've been doing the show that have come out with that one, mate. So I swear I didn't put him up to it, listeners. But it is true, mate. I mean, having those mentors and coaches, I mean, we have them when we're younger. We just don't realise it, and we take on a lot of the beliefs and values of our parents and our mentors and teachers as we're growing up. But then as adults, it's like, especially a lot of us men, we seem to have this idea that we should be able to do stuff on our own, and I think it's a sad opportunity that we're missing out on.
I totally agree with you, and also there's also that notion that I guess we think we know everything, especially in the early years. Like, no, I know how to do everything, and I'm on top of things, and I think sometimes we've got to be a bit more receptive, and also be able to take criticism as well from other people, and to be able to contribute new ideas to, I guess, different ways of doing things.
Absolutely, mate. Well, fantastic. I reckon that piece of advice alone is worth, thousands of dollars to anyone listening to this show, mate. So if listeners want to find out more about you, and they definitely should, because I see lots of tradies out there who don't have snappy uniforms and aren't looking the part, where's the best place to find out more about printed workwear, Josh?
Well, yeah, probably the first step would be our website. If you go to printedworkwear.com.au, we've got all the latest styles online. We've also got instant prices where you can get, instant quotes. And apart from that, we're on Facebook as well. But we're probably a bit more, steady more on Instagram. So if you go to Instagram, search Printed Workwear, we try and do daily updates of some of the photos of all the work we're kind of working on and any of, the new styles we're launching.
Nice, mate, nice. And as I said at the top of this chat, Josh and I will brainstorm a little competition for you to win a bunch of stuff that I don't fit because I'm too small.
Always print them. You can always get them signed and take them in. But,
yeah. But look, mate, it's been awesome having you on the show. Thank you so much for your time. It's been good to talk about uniforms and workwear. It's not something we've ever done on the show before, and I think it's a really simple, low cost way that tradies can use to market their business and just stand out from their competitors, look tidy, and maybe pick up the odd job here and there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, thank you so much for the opportunity, Warwick. I really appreciate it being on the show.
Absolute pleasure. So you know what I'm about to say. Great interview. They're all great interviews. And no, not because I'm on them. I actually don't really like the sound of my own voice. I don't think anybody does, do they? Well, maybe a few politicians. But anyway, that was a great interview with Josh from Printed Workwear. And it's competition time. Another one. So we've given away the free tradie first aid kit, thanks to everybody who commented and posted photos of nails through fingers and stuff. That was a bit gruesome, but anyway. Another competition. I'm giving away some Tradies Business Show workwear to one lucky listener. Now, here's the deal. I'm going to post a photo of myself on the Tradies Business Show website. You need to go have a look at that photo and guess how many items are in the box that I'm holding. Closest guess gets the box of gear. There's some cool swag in there, beanies and jumpers and high-vis stuff, and it's all monogrammed with Tradies Business Show. So not only can you be safe, you can also look good, and you can be my biggest supporter. How cool is that? Well, I think it's pretty cool anyway. So go to Tradies Business Show on Facebook, have a look at the photo, guess the number. Feel free to share it around. Person with closest guess wins the swag, and I will be drawing that at the end of this month, which is May 2018. So get on there, get guessing, and I'll be announcing the winner via Facebook and sending you a message. So make sure if you're going to comment, make sure I can actually message you. Don't do it with a fake account or something ridiculous. So anyway, if you want to find out more, go to tradiesbusinessshow.com. You'll find this episode there. The links will be in the show notes, or hit me on Facebook at Tradies Business Show. Thanks for your ears. Until next episode, hooroo.
You've been listening to the Tradies Business Show with Warwick Bidwell. Want to get off the tools and into true business ownership? Find out how at tradiesbusinessshow.com.